A strange thing happened in a peaceful town at night. Thousands of mice swarmed out, unexpectedly jumping into the water one after another. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon. As expected, the town experienced an earthquake the next day. Residents' emotions. Survival after disaster. No major casualties, but they didn't know that a catastrophic disaster was about to come. This small town is not an ordinary one. There is a nuclear power plant in the town, having the most advanced security system in the country. Theoretically, it can withstand earthquakes of magnitude 8 or above and typhoons of magnitude 14, but I didn't expect the accident to happen. Due to prolonged disrepair, plus this earthquake, cracks in the cooling water valve, there has been a nuclear leak so far. The old webmaster suggested issuing an alarm, evacuate the masses, but the new webmaster was full of mockery, angrily rebuke him, a person who's about to retire. I'm not qualified to give advice here. What he didn't expect was, the consequences of this accident have far exceeded their control. Meanwhile, the president who learned the news is preparing to order the evacuation of the crowd, but it was stopped by the prime minister. The reason is to conduct emergency evacuation. The people will fall into panic. At that time, it will inevitably affect the entire national economy. The president hesitated when he heard this, and several maintenance technicians underground at the nuclear power plant are afraid of a nuclear leak. In order to leave as soon as possible, perfunctorily completed the repair. But just as they were preparing to evacuate the scene, sudden explosion of cooling water pipe. Nuclear materials are beginning to rapidly heat up. A large amount of gas is pouring into the ground. Internal pressure is constantly increasing. Timely exhaust and pressure relief is necessary, and this will also cause nearby residents to be exposed to massive nuclear radiation. Due to the severity of the situation, must obtain the president's consent. Until then, all people realize the seriousness of the matter. If nothing is done, a nuclear explosion will soon occur. To say the entire South Korea will suddenly be affected by this disaster. After receiving instructions, the president decide to evacuate nearby residents, then proceed with the exhaust. But time is running out. An unprecedented disaster is approaching. Nuclear power plant workers have heard that a nuclear leak is about to occur, leaving audit work behind one after another. Don't be ordered to escape outside, just when everyone thought they were safe. But the leader ordered to stop the workers, and close the gate, and loudly warning everyone, the nuclear leak has not been resolved properly, no one can leave, my life is almost gone. Who will go back obediently? They pulled out the crowbar, jointly prying the door, trying to escape, and the temperature of the nuclear reactor here is accumulating. There will be an explosion soon. The old webmaster realized the seriousness of the problem. Step forward, resist external pressure, command to open the exhaust valve. But it's too late. The button controlling the valve has malfunctioned. You, the old station chief, personally led the workers into the core area of the nuclear reactor, manually opened the exhaust valve, but due to wasting a lot of time in the early stages, excessive pressure cannot be discharged. The nuclear power plant still experienced explosive debris, quickly spreading to the surrounding area. The small town around the nuclear power plant was destroyed. There are countless deaths and injuries among the workers inside. Invisible high concentrations of nuclear radiation is spreading rapidly towards the surroundings. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, who held an emergency meeting, still suggested an immediate lockdown on the news. Make surrounding residents take refuge as a pretext. Arrange nearby residents to gather in the sports hall. Then, the Prime Minister must have known that sports venues cannot withstand nuclear radiation. As experts analyze and draw conclusions, the only way to prevent the reactor from continuing to heat up is to inject water in the reactor to cool it down. However, when the firefighters arrive, faced with high concentrations of nuclear radiation, they dare not go in for rescue work either, fall into stagnation. Conducting peripheral water injection cooling work did not alleviate the spread of nuclear radiation. Nowadays, nuclear power plants by the sea can use seawater to quickly achieve cooling, but seawater can corrode equipment, and the station manager is trying to keep the nuclear power plant safe. Order: only fresh water can be sprayed into the reactor. Transporting fresh water a long distances wastes a lot of time. Xiaomei comes to the gymnasium. Tell everyone. News of leakage from nuclear power plants. Suddenly, the crowd fell into panic, scatter and flee in all directions. However, what they don't know is, the gate has been closed. There is also a group of armed police blocking the entrance. Obviously, they're not allowed out. Not only that, and also set up a shielding device to block messages. Heard the news of a nuclear reactor leak. The whole country is panicking and frantically fleeing. In the face of disasters, law and order are merely non-existent. There will be a big fight on a plane ticket at the airport. Inside the supermarket, people are rushing for supplies. Even police and medical personnel have been abandoned. The crowd began to evacuate. The residents trapped in the gym joined forces to open the door, just when they thought they were running away from heaven. Unexpectedly, the congested traffic once again plunged them into deep despair. But at this moment, the president stood up, quickly seized the command of rescue, ordered the injection of seawater to cool down, finally managed to control nuclear radiation. However, the problem has not been resolved. Cracks have appeared in the waste storage pool next to the reactor. Hundreds of tons of waste fuel stored inside. The protective fluid continuously drains from the cracks. Once the waste is lost, loss of protection. Severe explosions can occur when in contact with air. At that time, the entire country would suffer from massive nuclear radiation. The work of restoring cracks is urgent, and repairing it in a high-concentration radiation pool, radiation protection equipment in such an environment, completely empty, but it's like committing suicide. At this time, the president solicited volunteers willing to risk their lives to rescue the people through live television broadcasts. The white-collar workers and colleagues in the hospital were angry at the government officials for preventing their incompetence. It won't be as bad as it is today, but thinking of them as technical personnel for nuclear power plants is the person who knows the most about this nuclear power plant. I can't escape this responsibility either, and in previous nuclear explosions, they have already been severely exposed to nuclear radiation. It won't last long at all, so they became volunteers. However, the matter is far from simple. High concentrations of nuclear radiation are still unbearable. Someone keeps falling down. The desperate rescue work is about to be completed, but a larger crack appeared next to it. A large amount of cooling water flows out. Everyone immediately understood. The repair work is in vain. At this point, Ziobai has come up with a solution. Blow down the ceiling, contract the waste into the pool below. The installation of explosives and the blockade of the gate must be carried out simultaneously. This also means that the person installing explosives inside will be locked inside the gate, never come out again. Only Ziobai in the lower corner of the sea knows about explosives. This death mission can only be completed by him. After installing the explosives, Ziobai bid farewell to her family through live TV broadcast. In the face of death, Ziobai couldn't help but collapse. Workers completely evacuate. After completing the blockade of the gate, Ziobai pressed the switch of the detonating device. Although the crisis has been lifted, but Ziobai will never come back. After watching the movie, the mood cannot calm down for a long time, can be trusted. The rigorous design in scientific theory is difficult to trust the balance of interests in the hostage society. Explosion, flying stones destroy the city, crowd panic riots. The person who wants to leave the most, choosing to return home and sacrifice. They are ordinary people, but at a time of national crisis, putting one's own safety behind them,